Welcome to day 4 of water only. I'm now fully in ketosis, which is only burning a majority of fat, of which I don't have very much. So I have some results today. But before I get into that, just quickly, I slept only 6.5 hours last night, but then I had a 3-hour nap today. I went for a hike this morning around 6:30 in the morning. Had a little bit more energy, and on the hike I met a woman who gives these normal hikes. I went the opposite way, so I met them, and she told me to have flies and mosquitoes stay off of your legs, rub this particular plant on them. So I did, and it worked. It was really an odd smell, but it worked. Then later, when I was laying in the sun, I had massive itching on my legs all over. It was like a massive, like really intense itching and a rash. And I thought, oh my God, I'm having some fasting detox. And then later I realized, oh my God, it was just the plant. Probably reacting the oils with the sun. All right, so my blood pressure was normal today, and resting heart rate, oxygen, all good. I lost 1 kilo, so I'm down to 66.5. Overall, I've lost 5 kgs since I've started, which is a bit strange until I read in the book, in the fasting book, that even in thin individuals, if they have a toxic state to them, you can lose a lot of weight rapidly, and then it cuts off into very slow loss, even down to 1/4 pound, which is really small. So I'm not too alarmed by that, but let's see how each day keeps going. So I had the results back from the doctor here, from the abscess. We collected some pus. I'll just take it off out of here, and it came back fully. My understanding was that there's going to be some bacteria, dead cells, and showing from a bacteria infection, but in fact it didn't show any bacteria infection at all. Although it did show positive for a high count of neutrophils, which I was told, if they exist usually because they're killing bacteria. So it's really counterintuitive. However, no aerobic or anaerobic culture was present. So it's really bizarre. The doctor said in 42 years he's never seen anything like this, that it's abscessing and cancer in this area anyway. It does show, however, on the reports, in the cytology report, that malignant cells are present, and a moderate amount of neutrophils, like I said before, which fight infection, and necrotic material, which is basically dead cells. The diagnosis, it says the appearance is that of keratinizing squamous carcinoma. So it indicates cancer. So this is the second verification of a cytology report of a sample, but it's still not conclusive because I don't have a biopsy. That said, I'm not going to talk too long about this, but the subject today, or fact of the day, is about cancer. So, and specifically, I'm going to talk about breast cancer in this case, which is a very delicate subject for most of the population. All right, tumors of the breast. All right, so I'm going to just give some little facts from this fasting can heal your, or can save your life. It's a gem. on page 162, and I hate to read text, but it's really fascinating. You guys have to understand. It's incredible. It says, and I quote, "Fortunately for women, not more than one such lump of 10,000 is cancer." So 1 out of 10,000 is actually cancer. And women are mutilating themselves or getting biopsies and then or having their breasts removed for no reason. And there's several cases in this book where even after 3 days, 5 days, the lump completely disappears and the benign tumor, right, which is basically just a growth, gets reabsorbed into the tissue itself and gets excreted. And it just basically, all you're doing is you're allowing the body to take care of that growth, reabsorb it, and in the case that didn't come back for 13 to 20 years, in which he was in contact with this woman, it never reoccurred. So most of the lumps will quickly clear up when the mode of living is corrected. Just as fasting causes the body to use up its excess fat in nourishing the vital tissues, so it causes the breakdown by the process of autolysis, which is basically it absorbs the growths of the growths or tumors, which are neoplasms, and uses the nutritive elements contained in these with which to nourish the vital tissues. So it just absorbs them and uses them. There was another story. It says a woman was told that she had fibroid tumor of the uterus, about the size of a lemon, and that it should be removed at once. This meant that her womb would be removed, and that during surgery, reasons might be discovered for removing her ovaries as well. But this would not restore health. She would still be a sick woman. Operations remove no causes. There would be probably a recurrence of cancer or a tumor. And she would also be a physiological cripple. Cutting into the ovaries is like cutting into the brain. The patient rejected the operation and resorted to the fast. Soon the tumor was absorbed and her organs were saved. I mean, it's just story after story. So fasting is very powerful. It's in most cases all benign, well, in almost 100%, they say, of benign tumors, they're reabsorbed. But in fasting, in all cases where it's actually malignant or let's say of the liver or pancreas, fasting is not advised. In any case, just close this up. Another case I just wanted to read to you real quick. One case that I cared for was a woman who had a uterine fibroid about the size of a medium-sized grapefruit. Complete absorption of the tumor was brought about in 28 days. So anyway, very powerful. I have seen tumors in the breast, of the womb, the abdomen, on the feet, elsewhere absorbed while fasting. And some of these absorptions have been rapid, while others have been fairly slow. One man had a large tumor in the right lower abdomen, which had been diagnosed by means of a biopsy as a giant cell sarcoma. Lost all of his sarcoma in 7 days of fasting. And of course, he didn't have cancer, but he did have a diagnosis. So if any of you have cancer and know someone who does, I'd say the first order is go to a fasting clinic. Get blood tests, check your body, go through the fast. Most likely it'll get absorbed and the tumor will get resolved. At the very least, it will shrink if it's not totally absorbed. And then you could refeed and do another fast for full absorption. And if it's at least you have a body that is heightened immune system. And there's, of course, I'll get into more reports tomorrow, but if you watch that Science of Fasting, you already know that if you do chemo while you're fasting, it only kills the cancer cells, and it does not harm good cells, because there's a protection mechanism that goes around the cell, all the good cells, from memory of thousands of years of evolution. So even if you do chemo and radiation, so much, like 100 times more effective than doing it while feeding. Okay, so last thing I want to read is, for reasons that are not yet fully understood, some tumors are not affected by the fast, but thousands of tumors, some of them considerable in size, have been completely and permanently removed by fasting. I've had the pleasure of saving hundreds of women from mutilating operations for removal of the breast, and many more from dissecting operations for removal of uterine fibroids. So that's the fact of the day, talking about cancer and fasting. And that's exactly what I'm doing. In the case, this is either a combination of cancer, for whatever reason, and bacteria, or if it's just cancer, my first step is to do a fast to completion and see then what happens next, and see what resolves or what doesn't resolve, and I'll take it from there. Thanks for your support. Thanks for listening, and I hope you're gaining some knowledge and information around the subject of fasting. And we'll see you tomorrow on day 5.